Hi, this is Regina White Favors with Overcoming Setback Requires Correction. So, I want to talk about a particular topic, the purpose of setback. And I go into more detail in my book, Overcoming Setback, which will be available summer 2021, about around the time of August. But my setback began, and it has ended. My setback began sometime in 2006 when I basically entered my setback. I had to go through correction for a particular area in my life where I disobeyed God. And so I was introduced to Bishop T.D. Jake's message about the purpose of setback. And I can't remember the title, but I think the title of the series was Step It Up. And so it's been so long ago. But there was one thing that he said in that message that I thought that I wanted to share, and I have it in quotation marks here. The purpose of setback is to determine areas of weakness before going on to greater battles. I have left out a little bit of that initial quote, but what he was basically suggesting that the purpose of setback is not for you to fall out on the floor and pout and cry and say, woe is me, why me, God. But the purpose of setback is to determine areas of weakness before going on to greater battles. So one of my weaknesses was people pleasing. I had grown up in a sort of family environment with a single parent, stressed, struggling to take care of 3 kids, was married before, right, and divorced. And then just because I was the oldest, I received a lot of the brunt of her frustration. And there were some, just issues that were going on there. And I noticed as I got older, when I was in college, one day I was walking on the campus, and just the phrase people pleasing came to mind. And something about saying that out loud or thinking about it, just I knew that it applied to me. So fast forward to about 2001, I moved in with a friend girl who was a roommate to her house. And I didn't need to move in, but I allowed the idea of paying lesser rent at her house than what I was already paying to motivate me to make that decision. And so I had already gotten saved sometime in July 1998, and I know the Bible. The Bible basically says or reads, "Do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers." And I was a Christian, saved, um, and she was not a Christian. And even though sometimes an idea can be a very good idea in terms of the logistics of it, the common sense, the logic of it, if you are a Christian, and this is not saying that you can't hang out with people all the time or something like that, but you do not partner up with them. You do not move into their territory and expect God to bless it. And so I didn't consult God. I moved in fear. And that was basically my first true disobedience incident. You make mistakes all the time, but this was very conscious because I knew the word of God. So I moved in, and less than 3 months later, everything started to go haywire. I found out that she really didn't want me there. She just needed the money for those first 3 months and then expected me to go on ahead and leave after that. Well, by that time, I had already set up camp at her house. It was going to be very hard to just up and move again. And so fast forward maybe sometime August in that year, we get into it. There's just a lot of strife. There's a lot of issues. I end up having to move because it's like the situation is exiting you out of it, because you're not supposed to be there. It's the equivalent of Jonah and the whale. Eventually you're gonna have to be kicked off the boat, and you're gonna have to be, exited out of the whale in a sense, right? And that happened. Then I ended up moving back. And God knew that I was too devastated with the situation because they were friends. I lost all of my friends at that time. So that one decision of disobedience based in people pleasing, trying to please everybody else, but what I need to do for myself or for, serving God, that created such a disordered, chaotic, toxic situation that left me so damaged and devastated that it took years to get over. Well, I didn't necessarily enter correction, or God did not appoint correction at that time. I was in a setback because as soon as you disobey an instruction, and in this case, the biblical instruction, do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers, you immediately create a setback for yourself. And so that setback is now going to require some sort of correction, meaning that there are areas in your life that you have a misunderstanding. And that means that you are walking in error. And when you are walking in error, that has to be corrected. If you do not work out a math problem line by line, if you miss a line and you still arrive at the answer, the teacher, especially if he or she is a great math teacher, is going to tell you to go back to that third line and work it out. You're missing a line. So you're going to have to rework this problem out line by line in the way that I taught you. And so when that happens, if you don't, you're going to stay in a state of error, of misunderstanding, lack of knowledge in that area. So that situation caused all of that chaos. My decision, rather, caused all of that chaos. And we're no longer friends anymore, of course. And it sort of worked out the way that it needed to work out as well. But I have to take responsibility for that. Well, fast forward 2006 is when my correction begins. And it began with pain first, punishment, then correction, and so forth. Because that had to be corrected. That disobedience had to be corrected. That people pleasing had to be corrected. And any other types of issues that arose during my correction phase, which lasted, I say, about 2006 to 2013. During that time, I was going through wilderness wanderings. I lost my job. I became homeless for a bit, back and forth with family members. And then I was able to get back on with my teaching position in 2013. And then I sort of had like a post-correction process where I'm just reflecting and learning and continually, taking courses with God in a sense, right? Because the purpose of a setback is to determine areas of weakness before going on to greater battles. And that wherever God is taking you is such a great battle that you have to be prepared. You cannot take areas of weakness to the next level. They have to be corrected, because you will run the risk of creating a toxic dynamic and situation and environment at the next level, and you really won't know why. And if you have an area of weakness in your finances, if you have an area of weakness in how you deal with things, if you are always the type of person who has to cuss everybody out, use profane language, tell everybody off, wag your finger, you have to fight, you have to be the aggressor in situations, that's a weakness, because you can't fight everybody. You can't move to the next level in another domain trying to beat everybody up. You're going to be arrested. Just because you were not arrested in a previous situation does not necessarily mean you won't be arrested at the next level. So determining areas of weakness before going on to greater battles, that's the purpose of setback. The setback is not for you to cry and think to yourself, this is not fair. This is not right. God is being mean to me. People are being mean to me. You have a weakness. And the very fact that you are saying people are being mean to me should tell you right there that this is your weakness, because that shouldn't be the thing that you needed to learn. What I needed to learn in the situation was I needed to obey God at any cost, at every cost. It was clear, and it was clear to me. I grew up in that understanding, so it didn't make any sense for me to abandon that understanding. The area of weakness and people pleasing was something that I had to process out, because I was processed with a mother or with a father or with aunts to people please, to be the helper, to be the only one that a person goes to make everybody happy, to make sure that there's a smile on their face, to the detriment of my own emotions, and psychology and spirituality. And so that had to be processed out. So there were times in the situation where I was in, and when I had to go back and live with my mother, where she wanted me to do certain things that I knew that did not apply to me, but I felt like she was trying to, manipulate the situation. Here it is, I'm down economically, financially, and people tend to pull at you more. When I knew that the thing that she needed done could be done by someone who actually had the resources to do it. So then I had to go through a process of saying no. Even in the house where I'm barely able to pay enough rent to make enough money to pay rent and to her and pay for any other types of things, and I'm still trying to look for a full-time job, etc. I still had to say no, and that was hard for me because I grew up with a very demanding, domineering mother that you just had to say yes. There was no way around you saying anything other than yes. And so I had to process out. I was able to process out. I don't people please anymore. I stand up for myself. I pray when I need to choose my battles. I don't need to fight every battle. I don't need to set everybody down and have a conversation with them or anything like that. But when there comes a time that I do need to do that, I make sure I do that. So the purpose of setback is to determine areas of weakness before going on to greater battles. Those areas of weaknesses have to be corrected. There's no way around it. If you try to bypass that area of weakness and say, I'm just going to skip it, I'm going to skip these steps, it is down the street somewhere, maybe a year, 2, 3, 4, 5. It could be where you are in a state of winning and now you just want to sort of coast, but then that thing comes back up again. How many times have people have gone down because of a particular issue that they had in their past, especially with a sexual issue like an infidelity or something like that, and now you see that thing that they did years ago take them down. They are losing their money, they're losing careers, they're being sued, just a number of things. Well, that was an area of weakness, and they had a lot of time prior to that. And when I say a lot of time, I mean in terms of nobody knows your name. See, when it's in quiet and in silence and in a place where no one knows your name, that's the time to get it corrected, right? To get it done, to lay it at the feet of Jesus, of the Lord, and pray and ask God to help you to address that particular issue, because otherwise it will, if you don't, that issue will become a curse for you much later. So I want to stop here because I can go on with this for an hour or so. But just remember, the purpose of setback is to determine areas of weakness before going on to greater battles. So read the description. The book will come out, Overcoming Setback, August 2021. And I like to basically say summer. But thank you very much for listening to this audio.